questions. We're going to take a few questions. I'm sure this segment has been fucking long, but it's been a while. We haven't been here, and this is a treat for me to be able to think out loud. We're going to Ask Robin Black. So welcome to Ask Robin Black. This is a segment in Enjoy the Hostilities 3. And we're going to answer a few questions. I'm not going to answer super many here because a few of them are about Khabib versus Conor. So I'm going to just move those over to segment 3, which is fight preview number 1, Khabib versus Conor, fight analysis or fight preview number 1. And if you are listening on SoundCloud, iTunes, etc., just stay with us at the end. And courtesy of bjpenn.com and their YouTube channel, we will put up a unedited 45 minutes or thereabouts interview with me and BJ Penn, which was a thrill for me. So Ask Robin Black. We take any questions. I'm thrilled to get questions of all different sorts, and I'm thrilled to answer them, and I appreciate them because they give me different ways to have a perspective. So I got a question about at Telvin Kipapa, is Dwayne Ludwig as a coach? We're going to answer that in the next segment. And no, we're not. We're going to answer that now. Sorry. We're going to answer this one. Thomas D. Farley. Will we see the Celtic Cross demolish the Russian in 1? I think McGregor stops him in 1 or 2. Khabib will find it hard getting in safely with McGregor fighting long from range. That will be in the next segment. So please, if you're watching this now, go find it. And if you're hanging with us on the long form podcast, well, we'll get to it. Okay, we'll start. There's another Conor, and that is going to come up later too. So let's start with this. At Snook Matthew. Get Ben Askren to the UFC. Not a question, just a bandwagon I want everyone on. Okay, let's have a quick thought on that. When somebody's like one of the best in the world and your organization is about the best in the world, I don't know, is that still fair to say? I mean, is it though? That's what they say, but is it about really the best in the world, or is it, we know it's about a show a lot now. That's the truth. We know that to be true. So is it really even about who's the best in the world anymore?
No, it's half and half. They have to get half of the best in the world, but they also have to have half the most entertaining fighters in the world or super fights and things because we're now in that era.
Okay, so entertaining. So we talked earlier today about how things that we know to be true, maybe if we examine them, they're not true, and that allows us to learn new things. So what Mark just said was exciting, entertaining, best, these things all together. So somebody's argument with that would be, well, Ben Askren's not entertaining. So who the fuck taught us that? Where did we learn this? Where did we learn this lie? How did we learn this lie? That's not true. Oh, wait. Somewhere along the line, we were presented that this is more entertaining than this. And because we, or the machine, this meaning punches and kicks and big knockouts and two guys just drilling each other in the face. That is exciting. That is fun. But we were taught that this is more exciting than dominance or control or moves. If that was taught in football, people would boo during the running game. I mean, they would. They would boo, but they don't. This is a learned behavior. This is a learned belief. And this is one that's exacerbated by the way we reward one and the way this one gets into people like me. If we don't understand the drama of what's happening there, we can't pass it on. And, I have witnessed many people talking about, like, the job of, I will see, sorry, I'm just going to try to figure out how to, I shouldn't censor myself, but sometimes I just don't want to start trouble. But I see people that will, in different places, it'll say post-fight analysis, and the analysis will be, that was boring. That's not analysis. That's opinion based on what amount of education or exposure you've had to something and how much you've seen it. Like, Ben Askren isn't boring. A tree is not boring or pretty. A tree is not, ugly or pretty. Like, things in and of themselves in nature don't have boring or exciting. We've applied these meanings. We've applied them, and we've been taught them. People they're not crazy, those people in the Midwest who watch high school wrestling on TV. They're not insane. They're not somehow dumb. They're smart. They see it. They learned about it. People who find chess exciting, they're not some weirdos. They were just taught about it. They were taught. It was shared with them by somebody who passionately understood it and presented it in a way that they could go, wait a second. Poker is actually a fairly big sport on television in Canada. It's on, I work over here at TSN. It's owned by Bell. And then there's another company called Rogers, and they own another sports channel. And they do really, from what I can see, really good with poker. Poker was once not a sport anyone watched on TV. All they did, the only thing that changed that was they made the table clear and they put a camera under it. Why? Because now you understand what's happening. Oh, shit, Mark's got a 2-7, and there's a 7 on the board, and he's got 2 7s, but I've got, a fucking royal sampler. I don't know. That's a Homer statement, royal sampler. But all of a sudden, we could see what was happening. I guess 2 or 3 cameras. That was it. Poker didn't change. Poker didn't fucking change. Our perspective of it changed. Our knowledge of what was happening. Our understanding of it.
Yeah, it made more sense.
It made more sense. And I know you can say to me, Robin, wrestling's boring, and when he's on, oh, nothing's happening. Fucking poker's boring, but we made sense of it. And then it was cool. People love it. Then people started playing it. All of a sudden, this poker explosion, what was that, like 2006, 5, 6? All of a sudden, poker became this huge thing, and everybody was getting into it. It was fun. They wanted to play it and try it, compete in it. Just change the perspective, man. That's it. Fucking put a camera down by your balls and looked up at the cards. That's all we did. And then, put them on the screen. Now, when there's a position of dominance or some kind of control or some kind of giant move that's going to change everything, if we could plop that on the screen or explain it in such a way, it's not easy, but a lot of the choices that have been made over the years, and this is not a knock on the UFC or Bellator or, fucking any fight show, but it's easy to make the easy choices. But then they catch up to you in the long run. If you tell everyone wrestling's boring, instead of doing the hard work to show them the fucking cards that the guys have in their hand, then later there you are with an audience who believes what you said. Or if you say, this is what we celebrate, the biggest knockouts and the craziest moments, well, then you need all those. And eventually people are like, I don't want to fight like that. I don't want to have then people start saying, well, Cody's got no chin, because you sow this, you plant these seeds. So it's a lot of work to do, and it's hard work too, because it starts with wrestling's not boring, and then you have to deal with the answer. It's like, well, Robin, you think anything's great, or, well, you don't watch fighting the same way as other people. Yeah, I know, and I'm trying to pass little tidbits of that along, but people don't like change too much. Now less than ever, it seems. So changing how somebody sees something, that's an uphill battle, man. I try it all the time. I know it's worth it. It's not easy. But anyways, if we do it, all of a sudden you'll have to have Ben Askren, because we wouldn't be telling these lies about how he performs. That guy's a genius. That guy's brilliant. That guy's incredibly talented. He's smart. He's scary. He's abusive. Powerful.
And he adapts well. I mean, you look at, everyone thought he was a boring fighter. He couldn't finish anyone. Goes to one championship where knees are legal. And his whole style changed to be more aggressive, and he was a finisher ever since then.
Knees legal on the ground changes a lot of things.
For someone who specialized in folk-style wrestling, that's gold.
Yeah, exactly. So then, last thought on that. At some point, and I feel a connection to Ben Askren, because every fucking day, and I'm not rolling my eyes at you if you do this. In fact, I'm very thankful It's very kind. Sometimes it just perks me right up. But what is it? 6 to 20 times a day, depending on what else I've shared that day. Why isn't Robin Black in the UFC doing commentary? This guy deals with that every day. He doesn't know the answer. I don't fucking know the answer either. Some asshole somewhere doesn't think I should be. And he or she thinks he or she knows more than those 1,000 people a year who say that. That's it. Ben's dealing with the same thing. Ben's is actually harder. I have metrics saying that I do a good job, that lots of people like it. Ben has some nebulous opinion that one or more people say, oh, he's boring. Also, some people are just pig-headed. If you said no to him long enough to say yes, you have to change. You have to be willing to change. And you have to be willing to go, yeah, the world changes and I change and my opinions change. And not everybody's willing to do that. But once you get to that point, trust me, Ben loves his performances over there. He loves the people over at One Championship, as do I. The work I've done with them and the back and forth that I've had at different times with them, we still have conversations about me doing work for them. I've even considered moving to Singapore to work with them because eventually you're just like, what are you supposed to do after a while? How many thousand of those tweets do you want to get? Till eventually you go, and as it happens, one thing, meanings change all the time. The UFC belt does not mean what it meant when Ben Askren first wanted it. It means something far less. Does he stick it out and just keep fighting through so that one day he might have it and you say, well, see, I set out to have it and I have it. Yeah, but now it doesn't mean what it used to mean. You know? It doesn't mean what it meant. When I set out to want to commentate the UFC, there was, I think, only Joe. Yeah. There was only, I think. There had maybe been like bits and pieces others. But I mean, at that time, saying, I think in 10 years I could do this, that was a huge thing. Now, if there's 6 or 8 or 9 and more shows and stuff, doesn't mean what it meant, you know? Ben winning the UFC welterweight title now, when Colby had one version and Darren Till's fighting for the other, that's not the same as when it would be go beat George St. Pierre. I think
that would be more meaningful to him, just to fight George St. Pierre on its own. Forget the belt.
For sure.
That would mean more to him, and it's a bigger feather in his cap.
Guaranteed. Fighting George would be a bigger thing than that belt now, and that's not being knocking that. You just how can you debate that when there was only one of something, or when only 6 people had ever had something? You know, like at one time, let's say, you know, only 11 people in the history of the world had ever had the UFC welterweight belt. Well, now, you know, there's like 30 guys with it in their gym. You know, I fucking love Carlos Condit. Fucking love Carlos Condit. He has one. I think he earned it. There wasn't a lot of interim belts back then, and he beat Nick Diaz. We can argue that however you like, but he did. He has one. Colby Covington, he beat RDA. It was a lightweight. It was although when you're beating Robbie Lawler like that, and then, you know, and he kind of got that shot because he talked, and then now he doesn't, and then Donald Trump and whatever. I mean, it's not the same meaning, right? So, 1, he's not boring. 2, we got to change that perspective. Show the cards under the table. And 3, does he care? Does he care? Because you care a whole lot less over time. You care, trust me, I know. You care a whole lot less about that over time. The meaning changes. Your own perspective of it changes. The taste that it leaves in your mouth when you think about it changes. So I don't know. Eventually he won't care at all. Neither will I.
And number 4, most importantly, can he? Right now, he's still under contract with One Championship. Yeah. And currently in the UFC, his good training partner is the champion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the point of him going to UFC right now to fight for a title?
Yeah.
He wouldn't want to.
Snook, I'm with you. But on the other hand, am I? Because, man, One Championship is a brilliant thing. If you went, I was there. I was in Singapore, man. That arena was full. Passionate fans. I connected to those people. They were passionate. I got on the plane to Singapore, and the stewardess didn't know much about One Championship, but she knew who that female champion was. She knew, she knew that fight was happening that weekend in the Singapore Indoor Auditorium or whatever it was called. They were crazy for it over there. I was in Calgary. That was an awesome show. Amazing. But there was 10,000 people in Calgary. There was 16,000 in Singapore. When Ben fights there, maybe there's 20. And if he fights in some of the bigger stadiums in Asia, I mean, just because they're in Asia, those are people, passionate people who love the thing.
And they love him and
they
adore
love
him.
MMA. They love martial arts. They love you, the athlete. And it's on in 1 billion homes. A fucking billion. You know what I mean? It's not like he's not doing well. The only reason one means more to us than others is because we're here. If you were over there and people would be like, hey, when's this kid from the Philippines going to the UFC? You'd be like, I don't want to go to the UFC. I'm here. I'm in the middle of where there's hundreds of millions of people watching. We're in 1 billion homes. So a lot of this bias is shaped by where we live. But having said that, I'd love to see Ben fight George. And, I know both these guys a little bit. If that's never going to happen, at least get together and train. I want to come when you do.
We'll definitely be bugging Duke Rufus for an invite for that.
Yeah, really. Well, when we go visit Duke, we'll be able to. Although he's in Singapore a lot too. I trained there too. It's hot as shit, but man, was there some good Muay Thai training in Singapore. I'm going to answer one more. My apologies that this is short, but if you are watching this as a standalone Ask Robin Black, please go find our fight preview of Khabib versus Conor elsewhere, or the entire Enjoy the Hostilities, and we will answer some Khabib Conor questions in that one. So the last one, at Anti-Turtles, if you could change one rule in MMA, which would you choose and why? If one rule is the only, like if this is the law, like I'd like to break this conversation down and this question down into like, well, I don't want to choose only one rule. And in fact, here's why. But if we work under your structure that it is only one rule, then I think personally, I'll take knees to the head and kicks to the head of a downed opponent. That I will. The fights will improve the martial arts. So quick thought and, something we talked about earlier today in another context. I don't think there should be. My love to see the purity would be to see what would happen if there was no rules and no time limits and no nothing. Just go fight. And over time, we would see what was the elite of martial arts, of technique, of approach, of strategy, of philosophy. The sad thing about that reality and why we couldn't have it so, and why, as much as in fantasy, I imagine that being brilliant for the martial arts. The downside would be that people would lose eyes and, have damaged dicks and all kinds of things that we don't want.
Yeah, I mean, just watch the original Brazil Vale Tudo fights.
Yeah.
Technique, and then a certain point hits where it's just grabbing the crotch, poking the eyes. People just resort to that.
You resort to that. And over time, 20 or 30, first of all, less people would do it after a while. And that's not good for the growth of it either. But over time, fights would take place in a way that would minimize that, because you'd have to shape your training, your coaching, your knowledge acquisition around preserving these things. You can't go blind. You can't lose your penis. You can't have these things happen. You've got to shape your fighting around that. And that would happen in pretty quick, in years. But unfortunately, in those years, once you're losing eyes and dicks, we can't have that, right? So that's why it won't happen. But anyways, one rule, kicks and knees to the head of a downed opponent. What would be so fascinating about that is it would change every position. Now I'm in turtle. I gotta protect my head, and usually guys will take the waist and they might control inside the leg, or they'll maybe control my ankle, and they will try to drive their hip in and keep a hand and punch me, and I can block it. I can roll out of it. We saw somebody Demetrius rolling out well, and there was someone else even on that card. I learned that from Claude Patrick like in 2008. How and when and stuff to do that. Man, I've had some great teachers in my life. But that, if you happen to be in Toronto, Claude teaches in Mississauga, Elite MMA, I believe. Man,
that's correct.
Yeah, it's always been one of, and that's years ago. I haven't trained with him in years. His thought process was so brilliant, and he still is. While I'm at it, if you're in Ottawa this weekend, I'm doing a seminar breaking down fights for the purpose of training at New Era Combat Sports in Ottawa. But, and we'll be doing more of those in the future. But, kicks to the head of a down opponent, any position. So the turtle, I'm controlling you. I jump up and kick you in the head. I would do that all the time. At first, your answer would be roll to your back. But over time, they would develop all kinds of new things. Maybe you move towards it. If we would really need to train that timing, that the moment that happened, I move towards you. So you end up getting taken down. All of a sudden, a whole new thing starts. Turtle, bad, because you get kicked in the head. You jumping up to kick me in the head, bad, because you end up on the mat. Me jumping up to try to counter to take you down ends up bad because you pivot out and kick me in the head again. Like the new arms race of how all of these positions would change would just be so fascinating. And it's rough. It's a rough one. But if I can get kicked in the head standing, it is a rough one.
It's also interesting seeing applied in women's MMA. Like recently, Ryzen Mew Yamamoto fought, and she used the knees to the head beautifully.
Yeah. She's good. I've called a lot of her stuff in deep before. The knees are maybe a start. Maybe we start there.